You're listening to Your Magical Midlife. This podcast is for women who are seekers, dreamers, and out-of-the-box thinkers. If you're a Gen X woman who never quite fit in, and probably never will, listen up. I'm Kate Higgins, your host. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and coach, and I'm here to guide you through the expansive, exhilarating, and sometimes exhausting crossroads that we find ourselves in at midlife. Whether you're a seasoned listener or just joining the adventure, think of this podcast as your hot pink convertible cruising down the highway of change. Together we'll navigate the sometimes baffling backroads of midlife and collect all the cool souvenirs along the way. Get in and buckle up. Our map may have flown out the window miles ago, but that doesn't mean we aren't going to have a blast. Let's hit the road and discover the magic just around the bend. Wiley Women is a wellness brand that wants you to live your best midlife. Developed by a naturopath, they offer tinctures, supplements, and drink mixes. Wiley uses plant medicine and clinical studies to demystify and embrace the hormonal powers and hidden complexities of grown women from the inside. Female formulated and female founded. Plus, they offer free shipping and easy returns. I love the Unworried tincture, which has bacopa, holy basil, passion flower, and reishi. It helps calm my body and stops the spinouts. It reduces jitters and lightens my mood. Go to www.wileywomen.com and use code KATEH2O at checkout to get 20% off. That's www.wileywomen.com and use code KATEH2O for 20% off. I'm not a woman who was ever really all that worried about aging until it really started to happen to me. Of course, aware of my appearance and to a certain extent fixated on my appearance, like most girls are unfortunately socialized to be. And I was aware of where I was in the attractiveness continuum that all girls are socialized to learn, study, emulate, and try to jockey their way to, the top of the food chain. And it's a weird thing to be a woman. It's a weird thing to be a woman and to age. I am 53 and my face and my body have really just started to look different. And I know that some people are going to hear that and they're going to think, well, aren't you lucky? I've been concerned about aging since I was 35 or 25 or whatever. Girls now get Botox, preventative Botox, in their 20s, which is insane. Insane. If you know some young girl that's getting preventative Botox, you should smack her up the side of the head because, honestly, we don't even really know if it's safe in the long term. We don't really know. We haven't been injecting our wrinkles or our armpits. Oh my God, some people get Botox under their armpits to prevent sweating. I don't know that that's a great idea to put botulism into your body, into your lymph nodes near your boobs that are prone to cancer already. I don't know that that's a great idea. But I'm going to get off my soapbox and get back on my topic. I'm lucky that aging is really only creeping up on me now. Now that I'm in my 50s, I've had a hysterectomy, things are starting to get kind of out of control. Obviously, if you don't know about having a hysterectomy, I had a radical hysterectomy, which means they took both ovaries, both fallopian tubes, my uterus, and my cervix. It was not the best day of my life. It was really, really, really upsetting. And having your ovaries surgically removed puts you immediately into menopause. And again, how old was I when that happened? 51. So not young, already well on my way to menopause, well on the highway. I had already gone up the ramp and I was on the highway, but I wasn't quite there yet. My body was still making some estrogen. And when your ovaries are removed, yes, other parts of your body hold estrogen, but not to the level of when you're 21, 25, 30, 35, even 40. You have less estrogen than you've ever had. And estrogen is a hormone that not just makes you get your period and be fertile and have the ability to have a baby. Estrogen does many other things. It protects your brain, it protects your bones, it protects your joints, it affects your mood. Progesterone and estrogen are both related to dopamine and serotonin levels. So when you don't have those two hormones, you kind of feel like ass. And even on the HRT that I'm on, I still don't feel great. And I know I need to make an appointment with my doctor, but I actually need to find a new doctor because upon reflection of how my surgery went, how I was treated, how it was all explained or not explained to me, I'm now of the opinion that I would not go back to that doctor. That's a whole other podcast episode when I'm more ready to talk about that specifically. What I really want to focus this episode on today is the startle that you can feel when you see your face in the mirror and you realize you are most definitely not young. And I know that might sound kind of dumb. Like, obviously, you're 53. How young do you think you're going to look? But it's still really weird to feel your familiar image being pulled out from under you, like somebody pulling a mean joke on you. Like, in the old television shows, this would never be in a TV show now, but when someone pulls a chair out for somebody else and then they go to sit down and the chair is pulled out from under you, that is kind of like how aging is physically. It's all the things that you are familiar with, like even just looking at your hands start to look like an old person's hands. Your feet start to look like an old person's feet. The skin on your legs changes. The skin on your upper arms changes. Like, it's not just about gaining weight or losing weight. It's about the overall tonality of your body. I go for an hour and 40-minute walk every day. Every day. Every day. I go on this long walk. I mean, unless I'm absolutely sick or it's a hurricane because I live in Florida, I go on that walk, let's just say 96% of the time. And I'm fortunate enough that I can still afford, despite being self-employed, to eat reasonably healthy, fresh food. I've been fortunate enough to be relatively healthy, and still, despite those things, I look in the mirror and some days I look like I haven't slept in a month. Or I just notice that there are lines on my face that weren't there. There are silver threads in my hair that were not there. My body's just different. It's just different. And it doesn't feel like mine anymore. It feels like a weird foreign body that I've been placed in. It feels so strange to age. And no one really talks about just how weird it is. Like, now when I look at a true elderly person, like a person in their 80s or 90s, and I see them with really sagging skin and a chin that goes right into their neck. They've got a jowl. They've got a turkey waddle. The skin on their arms are like bat wings. Everything's just sagging. I wonder if, well, I know now because I'm not going to even say I wonder. I think and I know that they must feel like they're in some weird prosthetic costume. It's so dissonant to age to look in the mirror and like, who's that? Oh my God, that's me. That stout, misshapen body and that face with a sagging jawline, that's my face. That's me. Where did that young person go? It's so weird. If nothing else, it's really weird. And I know I can't be the only person who thinks it's the strangest thing. And I'm not saying it's even negative. It is, of course, I'm going to use the platitudes and the things you see embroidered on a pillow. Every day's a gift. Every year's a gift. Oh, it's better than dying. It's better than the alternative. Aging is a privilege. Of course, yes, 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 and yes. Yes, of course it's true. Yes, I'm grateful to be here and not 6 feet under or ashes blown into the wind. Of course I'm grateful to be here. Of course I'm incredibly grateful to still be able-bodied and able to walk and able to record this podcast and think and read and dance and laugh and taste food and all those things. Yes, of course, I'm so grateful. But at the same time, I wish I didn't look in the mirror and feel resignation and dread and disappointment and a little bit of sorrow. And also, I wish I had appreciated being young because I think I was young for a long time. You were young for a long time. And I looked young for a long time. And that was fucking awesome and weird. And also sometimes irritating when people would not take me so seriously because I was 40 and looked 30, or I was 40 and people thought I was like 28, and people would not take my opinion seriously at a job, or someone would literally pat me on the head. Well into my 30s, I was getting pat on the head. Or one time in my early 30s, somebody on the street insisted that I was not old enough to drive. Or at my college graduation, when I was handed a children's menu. There's a lot of downsides to being young. People don't take you seriously. People think you're silly. People aren't interested in your ideas. But I'm older, but I'm not looking old enough to look like I know what's going on either. Like I don't look like a wise woman yet. And I haven't emotionally grown into my wisdom yet. I'm still figuring things out. And I'm totally okay with still being in a figure it out stage. I'm okay with being in a figure it out stage. But it's just weird to be older. It's weird to be older. I live with someone who I've known since they were 27 and I was 24. So we met in 1994, the spring of 94. So 30 years ago. We met 30 years ago. And to me, he looks pretty much the same. And I know that that's not true either because I found a interview with him. And I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say the name of the band or why there was an interview of him. But I found an interview with him on YouTube. And I actually didn't even recognize that it was him. It was obviously the name of the band he was in. And I knew the venue and I knew the guy was interviewing him. And I was like, oh my God, is that you? Is that you? The man I live with? Is that you? In my head. I didn't say that to him. I have good graces and I want to stay on his good side because I love him and he loves me and I'd like to keep it that way. But I was a little taken aback. And I realized that if I was walking on the street and I saw my 25-year-old self, I'd probably startle and not really quite recognize just how much time has gone by. Life moves so slowly, and yet it moves like lightning. And time etches itself on our faces and on our backs and on our knees and on our hands and our feet and our necks. And it is such a strange thing. And I'm sure in the next 20 years, I'll look back on my 53-year-old self and be like, damn, I was so young and I looked so good and I'm unrecognizable now and all those things. Because even if you keep yourself in reasonable shape, and even if you are lucky enough to be healthy and you have the good fortune to be able to stay limber and youthful, time still passes. Time still passes, and you are aged by just not knowing what's going on in current events, and you are aged by not being in touch with pop culture, and you are aged by just the circumstances of your life. You're not a young person who happens not to have living friends or relatives. Like, that happens to elderly people, and it's because they're elderly. Getting old is weird. Getting old is weird. Let's not do it alone. Let's journey together. Stick with me. Let's age together. Let's comment and have a conversation about just the absolute strangeness of it, because it's strange. Let's pick a card for this week. And our card for this week and this episode is the Nine of Swords. Perfect. The Nine of Swords is about anxiety. It's about the dread of it being worse than the actual outcome. It's about getting caught up in your fears. It's about getting caught up in the what ifs and what thens and what now and the how am I going to do it? Well, aging is nothing to be afraid of. We are lucky if it's inevitable. We are very lucky. And I know that that's a stereotype and just a thing to say, but it is really true. And even though I don't love looking in the mirror and wondering where my youthful face has gone, or my youthful knees have gone, or my youthful feet have gone, because my feet hurt all the time now. My knees hurt all the time now. Even though I wonder what happened to that girl, I'm still really happy to be the woman I am now. Let's age with grace and a little bit of magic and a little bit of mischief. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to Your Magical Midlife. I'm Kate Higgins, your host. You can follow me on Instagram at Your Magical Midlife. You can also check out my offerings on my website, which is www.yourmagicalmidlife.com. I offer individualized coaching for women 45 plus who are seekers, dreamers, and out-of-box thinkers. I also offer luxury retreats that include ritual, rites of passage, and ceremony for women 45 and beyond. I'd be so excited to work with you. Also, if you're feeling kind and you've enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star review, as it opens this podcast to a broader audience and keeps me in those pesky algorithms. Thank you so much for your partnership with me. I appreciate you. Have a great week.